Today's guest is someone who gave up everything, money, success, comfort, because deep down he felt empty. Nearly 30 years ago, Bill Heinrich walked away from his life that he built to find something real, purpose, peace, and truth. Now, he helps others do the same. Can you believe that? He teaches people how to stop surviving and start living, truly living. Bill, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Your story is one of transformation and it is amazing. So I like to get things started and get to my first question that I was brewing up. My first question is basically, if we could start right at the moment when everything changed for you. In an interview you did earlier, I think it was I'm trying to remember the interview, but you talked about walking out in the snowstorm in Lake Tahoe 2 days after Christmas in 1995, never to return. What was going on through your mind in the exact moment? Was it fear? Was it clarity? Was it sadness? Or was it something else entirely?
It was something else entirely. I've been accused of having a lot of courage, but there's nothing further from the truth. The truth of the matter is I was unwilling. It was unwillingness was the state I was in. I was unwilling to live in my life, which at that point had become real chaos, confusion. It was just crazy, and I just couldn't take it anymore.
Hello, everyone. Come into the chat. If you dare, I really want you guys to comment, respond, get a part of this. We're about to start up something amazing. We're about to get into some transformation here. These conversations are not for the weak of heart and mind. These conversations are for people who are ready to change, face reality in their lives, and also get some hard truths, because hard truths are going to make us grow and they're going to help us expand. So I ask everyone to get in the chat, get comfortable. I know we're starting a little late. Usually we start at 7 o'clock on the dot, but hey, things happen. I just get my stuff situated. So for everyone out there, do not be afraid to ask questions as we go along and get a part of this wonderful, wonderful podcast. As we start, I'd like to just introduce the gentleman here. Today's guest is someone who gave up everything, money, success, comfort, because deep down he felt empty. Nearly 30 years ago, Bill Heinrich walked away from his life that he built to find something real, purpose, peace, and truth. Now, he helps others do the same. Can you believe that? He teaches people how to stop surviving and start living, truly living. Bill, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. Your story is one of transformation and it is amazing. So I like to get things started and get to my first question that I was brewing up. My first question is basically, if we could start right at the moment when everything changed for you. In an interview you did earlier, I think it was I'm trying to remember the interview, but you talked about walking out in the snowstorm in Lake Tahoe 2 days after Christmas in 1995, never to return. What was going on through your mind in the exact moment? Was it fear? Was it clarity? Was it sadness? Or was it something else entirely?
It was something else entirely. I've been accused of having a lot of courage, but there's nothing further from the truth. The truth of the matter is I was unwilling. It was unwillingness was the state I was in. I was unwilling to live in my life, which at that point had become real chaos, confusion. It was just crazy. And I just couldn't take it anymore. And I was just like, I've got to go find out why.
Yeah.
I've got to find out why. And this voice came in my head. It was like 9:15 at night when I left. And I looked at the woman I was in a relationship with and just said, I'm so effing miserable. I've got to go find out why.
Dang.
And I grabbed my jacket and walked out the door, literally. And of course, she thought I was blaming her. But the truth of the matter is I wasn't. I mean, she was participating in it, but I knew this was like my deal. It's like, how had my life gotten to this point? And how do I change it?
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to live this way anymore. It was just unwillingness. So that's what really got me to take that action.
That's really powerful. You know, you said something that was very, very revealing. You said your life was in dysfunction, out of control in a way, right? What did that chaos look like for you? What was the hardest part about admitting to yourself, you being so successful? I mean, everything around you, you had the money, you had the success, but it was like, it was, this is making things worse. My success is, the success I built is making things worse.
Yeah, it was, I mean, it had, I mean, I've learned so much now.
Mhm.
Excuse me. I've learned so much. And, energy, wherever the energy is, it always expands.
Mm.
So over time, the energy of this chaos, confusion, of stark survival, of, this and playing the role of the victim and so many other things, it was nuts. It
Yeah.
was just plain nuts. And I mean, I literally at one point just thought I was crazy because life never made sense to me, even as a child. I understand why now because I have a phenomenal amount of universal wisdom. I have the ability to really connect with universal wisdom, and people call it intuition, people call it psychics, but I can get information. I can just ask questions and get answers. In fact, anybody can. I teach people how to do this now.
Wow.
Anybody can do that because that's who we are, you see. So, but it was like I just couldn't do it anymore. I
Mm.
couldn't do it anymore. And I really didn't care where I went or what happened. I literally walked out and I said, all right, God, I'm yours. Like, man, I don't know where you're going to take me, but I know it can't be as bad as the way I've been living. I can't end up feeling that bad. And I was not on a religious retreat. I'm not religious at all. I'm very spiritual, but I believe in a higher power. I believe in something greater than something created all this. I mean, there's
Yeah.
something going on here, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, you called the old life an illusion. In another podcast, you said everything in the physical world is an illusion, a
Right.
projection of your past experiences, right? What did that truth and when did that truth hit you for the first time? And how did you see life now through that lens, that prism? And how did it
Well,
change everything?
now that I realize my life is more out of control than it's ever been.
Please
Right.
expound.
And everything you see in the physical world
Mm-hmm.
it's all made up. It's an illusion. It's a total illusion. It's just your perception. And the thing that I've learned is we are so ignorant. It's absurd. And until you come to grips with your ignorance, you can't really have an open mind and expand yourself.
No, and I get
You've
that.
got to admit you know nothing. Once you know that, and that my life is complete, I give a keynote speech called My Life is Out of Control and
Mhm.
Yours Is Too, right? And it's the truth. You don't know when you're going to die, right? We could both be gone tomorrow. Oh, but wait, I've got plans for Sunday. What do you mean I could be gone tomorrow? People say if you want to make God laugh, just tell him what your plans are, right?
Right.
And that's the truth.
It is.
So it's coming to grips with that and understanding that there's only one thing in your physical life that's true. There's only one thing that's true for everybody, and that's how you feel. And that's it.
Mhm.
Nothing else is true. It's all a figment of your imagination, and you're just doing the best you can to get by and to be in a loving acceptance with other people. And, they want everybody in society to fit in, but we're all different. No two people are the same. We're completely, completely different. So there's so many aspects of this.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
We
kind of
have the
out in
time.
front of the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, and we definitely have the time. You know, you said the only thing that is real is your feelings, right? I was
Right.
reading a study. I was going through a study, and they was talking about shared memories and just even memories itself, and how things that we remember when we're talking about repressed trauma. And they said usually 50% of repressed trauma is actually um
False.
yeah, false. It's made up in the mind. And I thought that
Well,
was kind of crazy. And
it's
it's to
embellished.
keep us in a constant state of awareness so we can survive. We never
Well, it is. It is just. It is about survival.
yeah.
Yes.
And it's just crazy. So when I think about that, and I think about when you talked about the only real thing is your feelings, can we really trust our feelings? Because at the
Yes. Totally. You can't trust why you have them.
mm,
You can't have. You cannot have an emotion
mhm.
without a story.
Gotcha.
It isn't possible.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And so it's the story inside you that creates that emotion that isn't real.
Oh, okay, I got you.
It's twisted, it's embellished. And the most important part about it is it doesn't support who you are today. So yes, that happened. Is it terrible? Yes, but for God's sake, how long do you want to live that? Well, you're going to spend the rest of your life living through whatever these, and I know there's been massive emotional abuse, sexual abuse. There's all kinds of things that have happened to people. But the truth of the matter is this, and I know this beyond a shadow of a doubt, every one of those things were chosen by those people to learn lessons they need to learn. And I know that's not something people want to hear because it doesn't sound fair, but it's so true. All of the insanity that I lived in and just total complete craziness, it makes me who I am today. And I love having gone through every one of those things because no one can sit in front of me and say something that I can't empathize with. And what it's done is it's caused me to look at the way we live. People ask me about afterlife and God, and it's like, who cares?
Yeah.
Right? One thing I do know, there is a heaven and hell, but it's here on earth.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's here on earth.
I would agree.
And so it's more about how can we get the most out of life? How can we put ourselves, let me back up here. I've got to build a little bit more structure here for you because I'm off in the wild blue yonder already. Let me just go back to some basics. Yeah. Okay. Here's some things that are very basic and very true. Okay. There's two of you and you don't see it that way. When you were born with life lessons. Now, because there's 38 different life lesson paths that a person could be on. And there's billions of different combinations that play into that create their lessons. But what it does is it creates a blind spot in your life. And because you have that blind spot, because if you have a life lesson, it means you're here to learn something, right? If you're here to learn something, it means you don't know it. And what happens is when you come into the world, first of all, everybody laughs when I say it, but it's true. We're perfect when we're born. We're this perfect ball of energy. And then they slap our ass and everything goes downhill from there, right? Don't do this, don't do that. We've got to survive. We've got another mouth to feed, blah, blah, blah. It's all about survival. And what happens is from infancy, because you have these life lessons, you've only got a partial view of what the world looks like. And you see that partial view as your normal self because that's all you know. Yeah. And then you're put into situations where things happen and you need to learn lessons. And what you do is you start learning how to protect yourself. And you go through life in survival with protection and you do what everybody says. And it's like, oh no, you have to work hard and do this. And everything they do is to get other people's approval. And the truth of the matter is, like, everybody's living with a blindfold on, making decisions based on who they aren't.
I like that.
Right?
I got.
You lost your sound there. I can't hear you. No, somehow when you hit the mic, I can't hear you. See, this is why life is out of control. This is beautiful. This is what happens when it's cool. Like, we just need to take care of it. I got plenty of time. Just breathe, relax. I don't know, when your hand brush the mic and then there you go. I got you.
You got me?
Yeah.
Perfect. See, life at it again.
Yeah, it's a little bit echoey, but we're getting an echo here. Must be up too high. Testing. That's better. All right, we're back in business.
Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Sorry about that, everyone.
Hey, welcome.
No, you were saying, man, it was have a notepad.
Okay. Living life with a blindfold on, making decisions based on who they aren't. That's what you wanted to write down. The other thing that's very true is this, is because everyone is taught survival, everyone is really focused just on getting to death safely. They aren't living.
Wow. How did you get this information? Like, give so many multiple angles to think about. You say we're just trying to get to death safe. Like,
well, that's the focus. The whole focus is protection. The focus isn't being in the present moment. So, and the reason for the reason is very simple. It's very simple. There's only two emotions. That's it. There's two emotions and there's no more. All the rest are things stacked off from those two emotions. There's love and there's fear. And you're either living in one or the other, and that's it. You're not living in both of them because they can't coexist. They can't coexist. To create fear, there's a couple characteristics about fear, okay? Number one, fear can only have to deal with your physical life. And to create fear, you must go to the past. You can't create fear in the present moment. You can only bring love to the present moment.
And what about our future? Like I noticed a lot of
Your future is just your past thrown out in front of you.
Okay.
I mean, when you look at your future and you're trying to do something, all you're doing is resourcing information from the past to create some facade for what you call the future, which doesn't even exist.
That's true.
The only thing that exists is the present moment and the past, and that's it.
I would agree with that.
You cannot travel to the future. You know, people, what happens when they go to the future, that now they're going there with an expectation, and the definition of disappointment is when expectation meets reality. Because they never come out the right way.
You know, you spoke to a lot of relationships.
Yeah.
You spoke to a lot of relationships that one. Oh my goodness.
So now get this. So there's only two emotions, love and fear. Love is totally and completely part of your non-physical or spiritual life. In fact, it's such a part of your non-physical life that you can't describe it to me. Try and describe it. You can't do it. It's not possible.
I'm trying, like when I describe like my spouse, for instance, how I love her. I keep going to things she do versus who she is.
That's the difference. Because we are human beings, we aren't human doing. It's the beingness. See, I teach people how to live their life purpose. I've been doing it 15 years. And I've never failed with anyone. It's impossible to fail as long as they have the capacity, and they have to get by an interview with me to make sure they have the capacity, because they can't come in and bullshit. They can't bullshit me. It's not possible. Because I read energy. I'm just looking at vibration. But everybody thinks, you know, they're doing yoga, they're doing all this stuff, and oh, this is all part of my purpose. And no, it isn't. Your job is not your purpose. Your purpose is 100% the energy behind every thought, word, and action in your life. That's your purpose. So I don't care if you're a babysitter, a CEO, a garbage collector. I don't care what you're doing. You can be living your purpose while you're being that. But the problem is people don't focus on being, they focus on doing. And when they're focusing on doing, then what they're in is the realm of guaranteed suffering. Because the very best you can get out of your physical life, the very best, is lack of clarity, hard work, and suffering. That's all physical life is ever going to bring you. It'll never bring you more than that. You can't make enough money. You can't have a big enough house. None of that to be fulfilled. You can have it and have the external, and people look at it and go, oh, wow. But these people are miserable. They have all these things and they're miserable because they don't understand that love is an action. It's a way of being that can manifest a billion different ways. It could manifest when you see a puppy dog, when you see a flower, when you see the birth of love can show up so many ways, so many different ways. So I'll say one more thing and then I'll be quiet. You can ask some questions. Who you see in the mirror isn't you. That's not you.
I get that.
That's the carton that your energy's in. And so it's just a physical manifestation of you at that moment. And you do not look the same today as you did a year ago. Our energy's always changing. Now, it's always changing.
When you say energy, because a lot of times, especially in the new school, we talk about energy, like your energy's not right. You know, I came in the room and, I just wasn't feeling that person's energy. What does that really mean? I guess, is it just energy? Is energy, or I'm thinking about it too hard.
If you weren't feeling somebody else's energy, then what's really true there is you weren't feeling your energy, because the world's a mirror. The other person's energy never matters. The purpose in life is to come from a place of love for the benefit, to be of service from a place of love for the benefit of all involved, regardless of the outcome. I don't care how bad the situation is in the physical, or as people would judge it being bad. When you show up from a place of love, you're actually bringing positive, uplifting, compassionate, empathetic, loving energy to any situation. And that helps heal and makes a difference. No matter how angry people are, no matter what's going on, if you're there, you're in your space.
Question: can your energy make people upset? And what I mean by that is
No,
like, I was
no,
told a lot of
no,
times that no,
no,
no. Okay, okay.
no,
Yeah. Okay, I
no.
just want to make sure because you hear the saying where people are like, well,
There's
you're
there's
upset because
nothing there's nothing you can do to make me upset. Only I can make me upset.
very true.
Because there's everything in my life, anything that comes into my life, I'm responsible for. So if you come in and I'm upset when I see you, okay, what I'm seeing in you is a reflection of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't get upset. Like right now, you can say anything you want to me. You can do anything you want. It's impossible to get me upset. It's impossible because it's just your perception. And frankly, it's all about you. It's all about you. So when you understand this, you can step into, I can step into any situation I can solve any problem, any situation for anybody. It's so simple, but it's all based on energy and responsibility.
So does that for us? I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's so big. It's not
It isn't,
complex, but it's very.
it isn't big. The world is big and the world is confusing. And as long as your focus is there, you're in trouble.
And I was just about to get to that. I was going to ask about that. It's like how do you, I guess disconnect yourself from the world? Because a lot of times the world is very present and it seems like we can
That's
step
really
off into
simple.
one
It's very
direction.
simple. It's very simple. Okay. I don't participate in fear of loss. I have nothing to lose. And there's nothing you can take from me. There's nothing I need to protect. With love, the more you give, the more you get. That's the game. Now, the minute why people protect is to protect their stories. They have a story inside them. And so now they go to right and wrong. And oh, no, you're doing that and you're wrong and you're a bad person and you're this and you're that. And what they're doing is judging everybody. And whatever you judge, you are.
I like that. I like that. I like that. I really like that. Whatever you judge, you are. And that is true for a lot of times where you talk to somebody
No,
and they're
no,
like,
no, no. It's 100% of the time, not a lot.
not a lot.
It's 100%.
100%. Okay.
It's an absolute truth.
Okay. I like that.
Everything I talk about are absolute truths.
Gotcha.
Okay. And the reason that I can prove it is because I only deal in vibration, and vibration carries no stories. If you're angry, you're angry. I don't care what the story is. I could care less. Doesn't matter. It's just anger or sadness. It's a vibration. And that vibration is what runs the entire universe. Everything in the universe is a vibration. So if you want to connect to being fulfilled, to being love, to just living a life beyond your wildest dreams, you must connect to the vibration of the universe, not what's going on in the physical. If I ask anybody about a special time in their life, tell me a really like one of the most special moments in your life, you're going to immediately go to how you felt, not what happened. That's the byproduct of the story. There's a saying, no one will ever remember what you said, but they'll always remember how you made them feel. So what happens is the world's a mirror. So you'll even notice in the course of this interview how your energy is going to change because I'm in your presence. Because you're going to a different vibration because your soul knows what I'm talking about. Your head does too, because you're asking questions that are letting me know this is a serious subject matter for you. Like you have some intuitions and inclinations around it that you're trying to get firmed up.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is cool.
No, you're right. You're totally right. You talk about in your book the 7 levels of truth. Where did the idea come from, and how much of it came from your own suffering, growth, and realizations from that moment?
I don't understand the question.
Like when you wrote your book, and you basically wrote out the truths and everything of that nature, and you talk about your energy, you talk about the vibrations, and how did you learn it? I'm saying, like, how much it came from, like within inside you, like, you know.
None of it came from inside me. It all came from source.
Okay.
What happened was, and this is a true story, a friend of mine, Andrea Hess, I don't even remember how many years ago, it must have been 10 years ago, was doing a 3-day seminar called the Soul Reclamation Seminar. Is metaphysical, which is something that we'll talk about metaphysics because people all run from that. But at the beginning of it, she started talking about our divine gifts. And the minute I heard about them, I knew all about them. Like it just woke something up inside of me. And these energies, these 7 energies, are the energies that flow through your chakras. That's what determines who you are. And that's what's controlling your life today. You think you are, but there's nothing further from the truth. It's those energies because you're human. We're all human. Listen, this all applies to me. Okay. So I'm not the grand poo-poo sitting on top of the mountain in a lotus position. I'm living life like everybody else. Okay. And what happens is we all participate in behaviors and we go, how can I do that? Like, why would I do that? Right. Well, the reason you do it is because your energy is controlling you. And you have these energies flowing through you, but you came to life with these life lessons and you're focused on the life lessons and surviving. And the energy going through you is just you recognizing that as you. But when I work with a person, I'm able to show them their energetic DNA when I take them, when they work with me in my coaching business. And when you learn your energetic DNA, then you really start feeling who you truly are. And the moment you do that, your whole life changes so fast, it is insane. And you'll never go back. Like there's nothing to overcome. You're just like, wow, that's me. And what it is what you breathe. Your breath of life is who you are.
You know, and it's crazy. You're talking about yourself, but I feel like you're helping me. You know, and that's crazy to say. And maybe it's just innate in you to be a coach. But I wonder, like, how you talk about you being a coach, and you taught and still do teach a lot of people, high end clients, high end individuals, people who seem to have it all, right? But they still feel empty inside. When you meet those clients, and I know you said you have them take a test, so they won't waste your time as well. What patterns do you recognize instantly, or do you ever see?
They can't waste my time. Okay. It's not possible. Like nobody can waste my time because I have total control over everything I do by my choice and I'm 100% responsible for it. Okay. So victims have their time wasted and you can only play the part. You can only be a powerful person or a victim in life. So I don't play the victim role ever. Right. They're just confused. And what gets people's attention is when I start talking to them and I start telling them some truths. And when they hear the truth, it was like this one guy, this realtor, Luke, a great guy from Pennsylvania, worked with me. So great. And he comes in and I start talking to him. Well, the minute people start talking, see, I'm not listening to the words. I read energy. So I'm getting the truth. They're just blabbing, right? But the energy is what tells me what's going on. That's what tells me the truth. And Luke, we talked for like 5 minutes and I said to him, God, how long have you been pissed off at people in power? And he looked at me and he said, how the hell would you know that? I said, it's true, isn't it? He said, yes. Yeah. Underneath, it was underneath him. Well, if you're that way, that's affecting his whole life. I have another client I met with today. He's a scientist, right? But he had been betrayed as a child and he really had betrayal running his life. And he's now in a financial services business where, they have to do a lot of paperwork and people process a lot of things. Just imagine people processing things for this high end financial guy who thinks everybody's going to betray him. He was riding the poor girl's ass at that process paperwork, like, cause he didn't have the capacity to trust that they would do it right. He just felt he was going to get betrayed. He was driving him nuts. His whole life was that way. And when he saw that, I mean, he was just like, my God, you're right. Like, how do I stop that? I said, okay, let's talk about that. I'll show you how to stop it, but this is true for so many people, Buddy has something going on. I have this woman, she's very successful now. She's been working with me, Sunshine. She's been working with me in my Monday group, I think 4 years now. But she was sitting there and came into my coaching and was just kind of attracted to, people just kind of get attracted to what I say, and they go, yeah, there's something interesting here. Check it out. Well, she comes in and it's like, so tell me what's going on. And like, where's your problems in life? Let's take care of them, Oh, well, it's my husband. I said, what's going on? She 5 minutes, blah, 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 blah. And she's sitting there. I said, okay. I said, I want you to grab the arms of your chair and sit back. She said, what do you mean? I said, just sit back and grab the arms of your chair. I said, you just described you to me. That's you. That's not your husband. Her eyeballs, she looked like a deer in the headlights. And she was like, you're right. And the beauty of it is, if it's you, you can change it. If you don't think it's you, then you're giving somebody else your power. And this is what people do, is they put their power outside of them. It's all wrapped up in people, places, and things, not in who they're being. And as soon as you start becoming who you're being, everything around you changes. Your energy changes. Everything changes. I hear from people all the time, oh, no, I've got this job and I can't quit. I'm like, there's nothing further from the truth. You can walk out. You don't even ever need to go back there. Yeah. Just a choice. But see, they see themselves as the victims rather than taking, and here's a question. I'll give you a choice. You pick one of these, accountability or responsibility. Which one do you pick?
I would say accountability.
Wrong.
Okay.
Because when you're in accountability, you're a victim. When you're in accountability, you're looking for approval outside of yourself for what you've done. When you're responsible, you run this podcast and you do it responsibly. You made a choice. We made commitments. We're both being responsible to the commitments we made. I'm not here to be accountable to you so that you think I'm a nice guy. I care less about what you think about me. I could care less. We're being responsible. You see the difference?
I see the difference.
The energy of accountability means somebody else gets to tell you whether or not it's any good. And when you're looking for their approval, there's no equality. Like you and I are sitting here being completely equal, having a conversation, being open-minded. We have the key ingredient of any relationship, and most people don't know this. Okay, this is a secret. Okay, the key ingredient of any relationship is mutual appreciation. Without it, you've got a problem. So today I was working with a client, and he's really up-leveling his business. And he had a client that got a hold of him last week that was unhappy about products and services he had gotten from my client. Okay. And the guy actually, hey, look, I don't like this. I feel like you guys deceived me. Well, when people start going there, okay, they're playing the victim role, right? And so my client saying to me, yeah, he starts talking about him. I'm there. Hold it. You got to learn this right now from me. Don't let a victim run your business. You need to, and it was in the victim. I don't have time to talk to you. Send me an email. We'll communicate by email. I told my client, I said, I would have told him either you get on a call with me and we'll get this taken care of, because there's things aren't adding up here on my end with what you're saying. I want to get clarity. I want to get this handled. So let me know when you can do that and we'll handle it. I'm not emailing with you on this. In other words, you're not running the deal. I'm running it. This is my life. You're not going to come in and drag me down in the mud. And this is what happens to people. Because what people do is they use this thing called divide and conquer when they go after people when they aren't happy. And, divide and conquer. You go in and you start attacking them, and it changes. And the whole energy, people's defensive and they're backing up and they're upset. And instead of just saying, look, I don't want your product anymore. And it's like, hey, Michael, I can understand that. Let me just make sure I understand why, so that we're both clear with it. I'm not telling you to keep it. Yeah. I just want to make sure the pieces are there. And what was happening in this case is this guy wanted to go work with a different financial advisor because the questions he was asking this guy doesn't know squat about this stuff. And he was asking questions that the financial advisor told him to ask, but he was doing it while he was attacking. And I said, don't let this victim run your deal, and he didn't have time to talk to him. Things were bad, but, he was leaving to go on a fishing trip to Costa Rica for 3 weeks and blah, blah, blah. It was all just total BS, right? And so what people get caught up in that, and, if it was me, I would have said, hey, time out. We're going to have a Zoom meeting. we're going to get this cleared up. You can go down the road, no problem. But no, I'm not going to give you all the things that your other financial advisor should be giving you. You're not playing these games with me.
Yeah. See, that's really interesting because that happened to me. Like I said before, I sent you a text and we were talking, and I'm in the military, and I had leaders. I had a leader, one in mind, and he did something like that, divide and conquer. He came in, talked to me. I was having a feedback with him, and he came in angry, and I was like, "What is he angry about?" And then he came off, accusing me of stuff that I had never done. And this was probably one of the only times that I didn't get upset or mad. I was completely calm while he was raging and he was hitting the desk and everything. And I said, "Sir, are you done?" And he looked at me and I said, "You going off the handle is not going to solve anything." I said, "You're accusing me of this and that and the third. I know I have never done that." I said, "If you can bring that person in who said this, we can get to the crux of this right now." And then he started and kind of like backing up his story and everything of that nature. And basically what came of it was he was trying to look for something to put me down so that when it was time for him to evaluate me, he can mark me down. But I didn't give him anything, so he couldn't justify it.
And misery loves company. So if you're not participating, he's standing there, holding on to the whole bag of poo, I mean, it's like, because you're just sitting there. I mean, he's like, okay, this isn't working.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I usually take the bait, right? But I don't know. It was just, I was very calm and I just wouldn't give this to him. I would not. I was like, it felt like, honestly, and it might sound spooky to some people, but it was like I was being told, don't give this to him. Don't, or this is so outlandish. It's laughable. This makes no sense. There's an air of confusion.
Here's what was going on is he was telling you some big story. There's always a story when it comes to that. Like I have a new book coming out. The name of the book is called Clarity Has No Story. There's no story with clarity. There's no story with vibration, right? There's no story. Clarity has no story. So people do that, they go into this story and it's like, no, save your story. Like when I work with people and they want to tell me their stories, it's like, hold your breath. I don't care about your story. I want to know how it made you feel, because when people come to me and the reason, people are miserable. And so they come to me and they say, yeah, my relationship and at work. And it's like, listen, that's not why you're here. Oh, yes, it is. I said, no, it isn't. You're sitting with me because of how you feel about that, not because of what's going on. How you feel because you've lost control, because you've done things and now you're really not feeling good about this. The other thing that happens when people come to me, the very first thing we talk about, and this is so important, it's so, so, so important. We have an asset. Human beings, we each have this asset. This is the greatest resource of all in our lives, and nobody even knows what it is. They don't even know what it is. What do you think your greatest asset is as a person? You won't get it.
Yeah. Go ahead. I can't think.
It's free will and choice.
Okay. You're right. Right. I do agree with that.
That's your greatest asset. And you've lost it. You don't live with it. You give it away. We're the only ones in the universe that have it. I do what I want, when I want, with who I want, anytime I want.
Do you think we give it up because we don't want to deal with the consequences that comes with making our own choices?
Well, they give it up because you're living with a blindfold on, making decisions based on who you are. That's why you give it up. When you find out who you are, when you understand who you are energetically, you never give it up. You're like, oh no, no. It's like this officer, whoever, coming after you, and you're like, no, this ain't happening. We're going to talk about it peacefully, and if you can't, then we don't talk about it. See, you use free will and choice. And what happened in that situation? When you had your authentic self for a moment, what happened?
The conversation, it totally shifted, changed. His anger was repressed, and we got down to and he kind of backtracked. Well, not kind of. He backtracked.
Totally. Yeah. And then because in that moment, he met the authentic you. That was authentically you. And it was one of the most powerful moments of your life.
Yeah, it was. I would say outside of a lot of things I experienced when it comes to a good, like watching your child being born. That was a good moment. Like I felt like
That was more powerful than watching your child be born. Watching your child be born was you learning about unconditional. That's what that
yeah,
was about. And that's a power of its own. But it's
yeah,
that unconditional love that allows you to express your power.
yeah. You said clarity has no story. You said you're coming out with a book, but what stories do we have to let go in order to get that clarity?
All of them. All of them.
That's dangerous.
It's not dangerous at all.
Does it take a long time to let go of those stories? Because we got all these habits, these
I
behaviors,
my
and we've been doing for
my
years.
I tell everybody that works with me that they're participating in transformation at the speed of choice.
Goes back to free will. How fast you want to get there, so it's all up to you.
And what happens is those stories, that's the end of your transformation. When you get to a story that you're not willing to let go of, you're at the end of your transformation. You've just wasted your time
Yeah, because
completely
you became a victim.
because that story is going to run your life. You see, but
Yeah,
that story that you're protecting is fear based because it's in the physical. And when you don't let it go, you can't come to the present moment because you can only come to the present moment with love. You can't come to the present moment with fear because you're bringing the past to it. And when you bring the past in the story is running your life. So, what you learn to do is you write a new story. You go, wow, this person said that and I'm really pissed off. And boy, what story's inside me that got me upset? What is it that I believe that caused me to be that upset because they said that? And you look at it and you go, this doesn't serve you. The universe runs with seven basic laws, and the three of them are fixed. And the three that are fixed is everything's a vibration. The law of correspondence, which means as above, so below. If you're angry on every level with that basic, whatever your energy is, it's the same body, mind, spirit, emotions, everything's the same. And the third one that's fixed is that everything comes from nothing. And what that means is you can create anything you desire, but you've got to let go of all this crap you've been taught that doesn't serve you anymore.
and I would say that's the tricky part. And I'm talking about from my perspective, and a lot of times
It's not as tricky. You're just worried. See, you're worried about what other people are going to think. That's what you're worried about.
I do worry about, but also myself, because a lot of times it's like, I catch myself doing this. I hold on to something that is not serving me, but because I had it and I held on to it for so long, I actually feel as if that thing that I held on to is like a prize. It becomes like a prize because
Yeah.
I held on to it for so long that now I feel empty because I had something to grasp.
When in fact it's an anger and it's an anchor and
Yeah,
it's destroying you.
yeah,
Let it go.
100%. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, there's nothing better than accepting all the responsibility for blame. It's so cool. Somebody's upset. It's like, listen, Michael, I was wrong. I'm so sorry. And, I just had a thing with my son a few weeks ago. He was madder than hell at me, really mad. And it was all his misperception. But I took the full blunt of the blame and sat down with him and he railed on me. Okay. He railed on me. And then after a little while, I said, okay, that's enough. You've railed on me. I'm accepting full blame for it. You want to nail me to the cross? What do you want to do? Like, I can't accept any more of the blame than I'm accepting all of it. I'm sorry. Here's why I did it. Here's why it happened. It was like being able to connect with him with unconditional love is more important to me than being right. And what
So
happened, was, I mean, I did some things that triggered things in him, truthfully understood later that his misperceptions are what caused all the problems. It really wasn't me. It was what I said, but he realized, wow, it was his thoughts that created the problems, not what I said.
So how does this work in the sense of like with you? Like when you say certain things and you speaking these truths, right? I see a lot of people like I hear something similar. And also when I go to the comments though, there's a lot of people in opposition of
Yeah.
it. And they're in such vitriol of it that
Yeah.
they start saying stuff that has nothing to do with what was said to prove their point or to, I guess,
Right.
measure up. It just seems weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
In some cases, I may not. Then in some cases, I do. Many times, I had one fellow who came after me on social media really hard. And I just I ripped him apart, but I did it with love. And I showed him, I took everything he said and fed it back to him said, here's what you said, here's this and this. And that's not what I said. What I said was this. So what you're doing is twisting and contorting it because you're so angry inside. Now you can tell me what you want, but here's the truth. Bump, 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 because I could see it, And he came back with something else, and I just came back in and just ripped the carpet out from under him. So it was like talking with that officer who was after you. I mean, it's so absurd. And some of it's so absurd, it's not even worth answering, I mean, hey, look, some people, misery loves company, like I deal in metaphysics, okay? And everybody's like, oh, woo-woo and all this crazy stuff, right? But that's just total BS. It's not woo-woo. It's called the universe. Metaphysics is what you hang out in with religion. You hang out in the non-physical. You hang out in a fantasy world where there's a heaven and a hell and there's all these other things that nobody knows is true. It's all a fantasy. And it's all about, hey, here's this. It's all about supposedly doing good, yet there's 10,000 different religions or whatever, So, I mean, I can't figure it out. I was brought up Catholic and I don't participate anymore because the way I live now, I come from a place of love. I can't be any better human. It's not possible. I'm not perfect, but I have no problems immediately making amends and say, geez, I did something wrong. But when I was raised in shame. And shame is disgusting because guilt is how you feel when you do something wrong, but shame is who you are. I mean, get rid of shame. I used to hear that all the time. Shame on you from my mother. I mean, but this is, they were doing the best they could. They were working with what they'd learned and da. It's just the way it is. But when you start understanding the truth, and I said, hey, if I could show you how to have many, many more experiences like you had with that officer, and you'll just live in your power your whole life, you know what I'm talking about. You may not believe it's true. However, you know what I'm talking about. Most people can't even imagine that. They don't have any, they're like, well, tell me what's going to happen. It's like you're in kindergarten and I'm going to teach you physics right now. Like you don't have the capacity to understand. Because you're just so wrapped up in your crap. I'm going to help you unwind it. I don't know what's going to happen because you're different. I don't know who's going to show up when we strip away all these stories and things that don't serve you. As they what's fascinating, like what happened with you and that officer, okay, is you get instant gratification, don't you? It's instant. You don't have to wait. That's because you were reading the energy. That's undeniable, right?
Yeah. Oh, you're right.
The more you can learn to do that, then the more you can have conversations with anybody about anything when you come from a place of love. Because when you come from a place of love, there's no difficult conversations. They're just more intimate.
So question, you're dealing with who you are now. And, you come on podcasts like this one and we ask you to go back and remember the man you were before. Is there a cognitive dissonance there where you're like, do I really want to explore this, I guess, this version of me or sorry?
No, I'm going to share any part of it that I deem relevant. I'm not hiding from any of it. If it's relevant in the conversation, that's going to let you know that I know you. I'm not going to share things that aren't relevant to you because then that's about me. That's taking. I'm not here to take. I'm here to give. So I'm going to speak about things that you'll connect with and you'll go, yeah, that's right. It's like talking about this experience you had with that officer. I can come right in and tell you, yeah, here's the book and yeah, that's true. That's true. Right. So I'm happy to share all of it. But it doesn't do any good. What, I'm going to share it with people who aren't going to change their life anyway. Like if you come and you're sitting in front of me, you can't play games because the problem is if you don't have the capacity to do this, everybody has the capacity, but they aren't willing to take on the responsibility. Okay. Then I would destroy their life. I'll tell you a funny story. I had this client one time. I went through a whole session with him. He was so fragile and he was so protective, right? Really, very protective, very successful businessman. And we got all done and I said to him, hey, what do you think? Here's my programs. And he said, I really appreciate your time and what you've done, but I really haven't heard anything I haven't already heard. I said, you know what? But I would agree. You want to know why? He said, why? I said, because you can't handle the truth. And I was taking it easy on you. Well, what do you mean? I said, I don't know if you want to know the truth. He said, oh, no, I want to know the truth. I said, you're an emotional con artist. You're the biggest con artist I've ever met in my life. And he looked at me and he said, you're hired. He was just dancing around all this stuff. And I have to be careful because I can't just come in and tell everybody everything I see. I have to make sure that they're ready for it. But don't sit there and tell me you didn't learn anything. Don't put, because that I'll just come in and take them out at the knees, because this stuff is just, again, it's like, there was a giant against a boy when that officer came in, and he was the boy and you were the giant. And there's no way where you were at and not buying into that and sitting there peacefully. You had total control of that. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I would.
He was screaming and yelling and doing his thing, but you were like this, it's like watching a baby with its rattle, banging it on its high chair, right?
100% so.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. No, you're right.
And those behaviors are very consistent when people do that. That's what you see.
Before we close, I want to really give you the floor. I know you've been talking, and I've just been in awe of what the things you're saying, and just really trying to wrap my head around what you're saying, and also
Don't wrap your head around it. Don't use your head. Wrap your heart around it.
Wrap my heart. I like to apply what I learned. I'm not afraid of that, right? So this has been a very rewarding interview. Please tell our audience, what do you have going on and how they can get a hold of you and in touch with you?
I have a lot going on. The easiest way to get a hold of me is if you want to speak to me, just go to speaktobill.com. Speaktobill.com, and that'll take you right to my calendar. My website is True Life Purpose Now. And I have a new program coming out because they just flip out with the woo woo and the energy, and they go, oh, how can that ever work? So I have a new program that I've just finished, and this is it's one of my masterpieces. It's taken me years to put this together to be able to do this. And the name of it is the Peak Potential Blueprint, where I show people how to tap into their peak potential. So if you want to really tap into your potential, most people don't even know what potential is, frankly. I have this new program that I'm just going to be introducing I'm so thrilled about it because it memorializes so many of my teachings, and the program is encompassed in my coaching program. And then the Peak Potential Blueprint program itself is 30 15-minute videos that I created that take people through all these different steps so they can really see the truth about their life. And here's the important thing. People listening to this, you're not going to agree with everything I say, and I don't want you to. I don't care what the hell you do, to tell you the truth, because it's your life. I'm not here to convince you. I'm just here telling you the truth. If you really want to live the truth, come and work with me, and your life will change so fast it'll blow your mind. I can change anybody's life in 60 minutes. I've changed your life in this interview. Like, there's things you learn that you're never going to forget.
100%.
And it isn't about anything you need to learn. It's just like, I'm doing that from now. This is what. So you pick what you like and leave the rest, because everybody's different. Everybody comes from different backgrounds. So a lot of coaches are working, you do this program, I'm going to have you do this and do this and do this. It's like, what a bunch of BS. You just need awareness so that you can make more powerful choices. And when you make those powerful choices, you get instant gratification. And then you're like, oh, well, now I'm going to try that. That worked. That was crazy the way it worked, right? And this is what happens. So, one of the fascinating things I'm really excited about this Peak Potential Blueprint. And I'm just getting ready. The program's done. Just getting ready to introduce it. Not sure totally how I'm going to run it, because one of the challenges I have. This is a very unusual challenge, that I have, and that is when clients work with me, they don't leave.
Yeah, that's a great problem.
Well, I've got 5 clients right now that have been with me 7 years. We meet every week for 7 years. Like, there's no contract. I don't write contracts with anybody. If I need to write a contract with you, I don't want to do business with you. If I need to hold you captive, there's parameters of the programs. All of my programs contain a 100% money back guarantee. No one's ever asked for their money back. And the reason for that is you can't get into the program unless I think you really have the capacity. Because if you don't, I'm just not going to have you come in and destroy, have you sitting there going, yeah, well, I don't believe that and this. And it's like, okay, great. The door is right there. See you later. Like, you don't need to believe anything I say. You're there to improve yourself. And what I'm doing is giving you a variety of information to pick from,
Yeah.
So in this interview, what are a couple of things that have really resonated with you, Michael? What are a couple of things that have changed your life?
Well, honestly, but when you talked about it's only two emotions, love and fear, and I have never really thought about it in that sense.
It's
I
that
have,
simple.
I have, but love. When you said love and fear, that, yeah, yeah. And when you talk about your physical life and, your physical life and being in, it's only two lives, like the present that you live in today. And then also when you talk about your past and how you create stories for yourself, for your trauma and the things that you have dealt with
What's
and the things
controlling
you
you?
don't
Yeah.
deal with. Yeah. And that, man, all that stuff was, all the things that you were saying. And then, how do you describe love? Like, man, everything, everything, man,
Yeah.
trust me, everything. It's just, I need to apply it and apply it and keep it because I don't want to run back to
No, you need to,
what.
what you need to do is choose it. Okay.
Mm.
I'm going to give you one more. Okay. Okay. Are you ready for this? Okay.
Ready?
Never make another decision in your life.
Mm.
Write that down. I will never make another decision. The word decision, the Latin basis of it means to cut off. What you're going to do from now on is just make choices. You can make a choice with love. Decisions always carry fear. Decisions are always based on what other people are going to see or think. Just make a choice. And guess what? If you make the choice and you wake up the next morning and you have a little more clarity, you can change it. It's your world. It's your choice. Powerful. Just say it. I need to make a decision or I'm going to make a choice. Tell me which one feels better.
Make a choice. Because for me, like even just saying it from a decision to a choice, if I say I'm making a choice, it feels like I'm responsible. I'm being
Yep.
responsible.
Wait, yeah, you're not accountable anymore. See? Responsibility feels pretty good, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
It's ownership. It's powerful.
Yes.
This is what makes your heart pump. This is what brings you life. And that's what this is all about is how can you live more powerfully? Because when you live more powerfully, this isn't for your benefit. It's for the benefit of everyone around you. How can you love more? You can't give away what you haven't got. You can't give it away if you haven't got it. You can talk about it, and that's why there's so many divorces. It's all intellectual and there's no communication. And there's reason there's no communication. You got two people who are just too busy defending the stories inside them instead of sitting there and saying, when you say that, it reminds me of when I was a kid and the way my father used to treat me. And that really hurts. It really makes me sad. Well, if you tell your partner that, is your partner still going to talk to you that way? I don't think so. If they do, they won't be your partner long because you won't put up with it. If they can't give you the respect that you're asking for, and it's just the manner in which things are said. People don't do it intentionally. They do it because they just don't know. They're scared. They don't know any other way. They're just focused on taking care of whatever they've got.
Right. I like that. You gave me so much to think about and to have, and not just to think about, but really to apply and to make a conscious choice. Thank you. Thanks.
That's
Bill.
great. You're going, my purpose is to empower others so that you can empower others. That's my purpose. See, all this, and even in the middle of this, you screwed up the mic and the sound, right?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's just life, right?
Yep.
It had absolutely no effect on the interview. Maybe it made it better because
Yes,
it just showed how real we were. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have Bill. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
See y'all next week.